In the past, splitting text strings into multiple cells was pretty complicated. We'd have to use functions such as the left, right, and mid functions in combination in order to split our text strings, and that made it so complicated. Now we have what's called the TEXTSPLIT function, and with this function, we can split our text strings much easier. Even if it has multiple delimiters, multiple spaces, we can do this with ease. We can even combine our TEXTSPLIT function with other functions to make the process even easier. So with that said, let's get into this tutorial.
Okay, so let's get started. So here we have our list of text. We have the first name, last name, age, and city where they reside of different people. And what we want to do is split the text in each of these cells. In order to do that, we can use the TEXTSPLIT function. So in this cell, C2, I'm going to begin my TEXTSPLIT function. And you'll see within this formula, you have different criterias that need to be met. So the first one is text, and this is basically going to be the cell that you want to split the text in. So in our case, that would be cell A2. Then you're going to hit a comma. Next, you have your column delimiter. A delimiter is basically something that marks the end of one piece of information and begins a piece of the next piece of information. So most delimiters are typically commas, tabs, spaces, colons, semicolons, slashes, and so forth and so on. In our case, we have commas and semicolons and spaces as our delimiters. But first, let's start off with just commas. So here, we're going to start off with our quotation mark, comma, close the quotation mark, and close our parentheses, and hit enter. And you see that it has split this text into the columns as we needed. However, you'll see that in front of Bradley, there's a space still there. In front of 34, there's a space still there. It kept the spaces, so it delimited by just the commas. So in order to remove those extra spaces, what we can use is a trim function. So in front of our TEXTSPLIT function here, we can type in the word trim, open parentheses, and then close it with another parentheses and hit enter. And now it has trimmed it to remove all of the unnecessary spaces in between the words and numbers. So now if I drag this formula down, we see that we still have some issues here. We need to remove these delimiters of semicolons as well in order to split the text in these rows properly. So let's go back to our original TEXTSPLIT function and let's add the semicolon to our formula. In order to add more than one column delimiter to the formula, you're going to need to use your curly brace. So you're going to hit Shift and your curly brace key, and then you're going to separate it by commas. So after your first set of quotations for your comma delimiter, you're going to add a comma, add another quotation, semicolon, close your quote, and now you have these two delimiters in your function. And you're going to close this by hitting the curly bracket to close it out and hit enter. Now, when you drag this down, you no longer have the semicolon delimiter, and also there are no spaces in between the words. So that is a simple way to trim, or I should say split, these words into their own columns. You can also split items into rows as well. That is also in the formula using the row delimiter section. And you can also choose to ignore empty cells as well. Another thing that you could do instead of using the trim function is you could simply list out all the possible column delimiters that you know that could be the case. So you would put your comma, your semicolon with a space, your comma with a space, and it will eliminate those spaces within your function. So for example, if I took out this trim function, and then inside of my curly braces, going to put a comma, open quote, comma, space, then a close quote, comma again, open quote, semicolon, space, and then another quotation mark, and I hit enter. This is going to do the same thing that the trim function did for me, but I listed out all the possible column delimiters that are here. We have commas with spaces, we have commas without spaces, we have semicolons with no spaces around it. So this allows us to basically list all of the column delimiters that we might have within this particular function. It may be more efficient to just use the trim function to eliminate any unnecessary spaces, but that's really up to you, preference, I should say.
If you're new to this channel, hi, my name's Renee and I'm a certified public accountant. I have over 13 years experience in financial analysis and I've worked across varying industries. Here on this channel, I like to share some of the tips and tricks that I have learned along the way. And if you're interested in this type of content, please do subscribe to this channel. Now let's get back into the tutorial.
Next, we are going to take this text and we're going to sort it by the highest to lowest scores. We're going to split it into rows and columns and then sort by test score. So let's get started. Our column delimiters are going to be the equal sign and the slash sign. So we're going to use our curly brackets to have multiple delimiters for our columns. Our row delimiter is going to be the comma space. This tells us where we need to start our next row. And there you have it. Next, we're going to want to sort our test scores from highest to lowest in descending order. So in order to do that, we're going to add a sort function to this. We are going to put the number 2 for our sort index as we wanted to sort by column 2. We are going to put a -1 here in order to have it sort in descending order. And we're going to hit enter. And there you have it. Our scores are from highest to lowest. Next, we're going to split this text into columns. Then we are going to sort it in alphabetical order or numerical order where it applies. And then we're going to stitch it back together using the TEXTJOIN function. So let's get started. Our column delimiters are going to be this. Our column delimiter is going to be the comma. And as you can see, it split it into columns. In front of yellow, there's an extra space. In order to eliminate any extra spaces in between these words, we're going to need to add the trim function to our TEXTSPLIT function. So let's do that. Okay, so now the extra space in front of yellow is gone. Now we're going to want to sort this in alphabetical order. So let's add the sort function. We're going to put true here in order to sort by column. And hit enter. And now it is in alphabetical order. Next, we're going to want to join these words back together with comma and a space in between into one cell. So in order to do that, we're going to use the TEXTJOIN function. So let's do that. Our delimiter is going to be the comma with the space. This comma with the space is going to separate each word. We want to add true in here in order to ignore any empty cells. We're going to add a parentheses at the end in order to close this up. Hit enter. And now everything is back together and in alphabetical order. When I drag this down, you'll see that also the numbers are in numerical order, so everything is as it should be. And that's it.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found it useful, please do subscribe to this channel and like the video. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye now.